All right, guys, welcome to our Lunch and Learn. Today we have our very special guest, Danielle Dowell, which us in the Chicago real estate market, we all know Danielle Dowell. Stephen, I think you said her friends or your kids think she is the Beyonce of Chicago real estate. So that was good. That was good to hear and see, right?
We all love dance parties.
Yeah, that's right. So Danielle, you are the leader of the Dowell Group, right? That's
hmm
correct. You've been in the business for about 13 years. And what's
Yeah.
cool about your story is you moved to the city of Chicago and you knew nobody. Is that correct?
hmm Yes.
So
Yeah. I had one person I knew.
you didn't grow up here. You didn't go to school here. So you walked into this big city with one person that you knew. All right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What was your attraction to Chicago?
Oh, the typical, it was for a man.
Oh,
So,
all right.
yes.
That was the one.
So I moved with a guy that I met in St. Louis before. And so he got a job in Chicago. And so I moved to Chicago. And I
Okay.
was in the restaurant industry before. And I thought, man, I really don't want to do this. And I was 25.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can I do where I can still hustle, but it's not the late nights? And then I opted for the early mornings in real
Okay.
estate.
All right. Cool.
hmm
So a fun fact about you, Danielle, is that you started as an assistant for the
hmm
first 2.5 years, right?
Yep.
Before owning your own business.
hmm
How did that experience shape you in your business, being an assistant for a couple of years?
I thought it was great because I got to work underneath a woman who was like a multi-million dollar producer, and I got to watch her, and I got to learn so much in such a short period of time. Even though I was her assistant, probably 2.5 years.
Mhm.
For me, I didn't have any clientele here, anyone, a sphere of anything that I could reach out to. But she taught me a lot, and it was an amazing experience. And I say for a lot of agents coming in, if you can afford to be an assistant. I mean, obviously, a lot of assistants don't make a ton of money, but I think it's like going to college. It's well worth the experience that you get and just the knowledge that you get. And I loved it. I would not have chosen to have my career go any other way from the beginning. And
Wow.
I actually think that if I was an assistant, I'm not sure that I would have made it.
Really? Tell me,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that. Why do you say that?
Um, you know, I think because I always was used to like team sports. I played sports all through high school. And I was used to kind of that team environment.
Yep.
And, even now, like when I work out, I love going to classes and having other people around.
Mhm.
Although I have learned to be by myself now in the quarantine, there's not much you can do. But
Forced,
I
right?
think what'd you say?
I said that's forced though.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think, for me, honestly, I think it's really hard to start off by yourself, especially when you have no sphere and you have no knowledge. I mean, I was 25. I'd never bought in a house. I didn't really know how to buy a house. I didn't know what the loan process was, and I really needed someone to guide me.
Mhm.
And I think it's hard in this business. Like you want to be a mentor, but when you're an agent and you're really busy, it's hard to mentor everyone. So I feel like for me, it was the best route. I'm not sure like if I would have been able to figure it out, actually navigate it if I would have just been by myself, in all honesty.
All right, that's great. So fast forward to today, right? And you are leading a team that produces roughly about $50 million a year, and there's eight of
Yeah.
you. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, cool. And before we go into the topic of what you're doing right now is what you're doing to approach what's going on right now in our world
Mhm.
of recharging your batteries, give us a brief overview of your business and in the Chicago real estate world and how you approach just running your own business. Because Danielle, you and I have had lots of conversations, right? And you have
Uh-huh.
a unique way of looking at things, which I mean that genuinely. I think it's awesome, right? So
Mhm.
how do you, before we jump into how you're recharging right now, how do you approach the Chicago real estate market and business?
So kind of how we approach it is we do, maybe later. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, somebody's trying to get a hold of you or something.
I'm not sure. Still relatively new at this.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, for us, what our business, we do everything. So we do rentals to luxury. We do a lot of new construction. Somehow I fell into that. And then my brother and I have a development group that does a small amount of development work. mostly single family where I'm from in Missouri. We started that about 7 years ago. And so we're kind of all over the board. And how I run my team is we have 2 full-time licensed assistants that really are partners. I don't really call them assistants because honestly, they're super knowledgeable and they're amazing at what they do. And they're really just partners of ours. And then we have agents, and kind of how I do is I co-list everything. We run our business with 2 agents for every deal, whether it's a buyer or a seller or, renter or whatever the case may be, just because we want to make sure that we are available for every showing, for every text message, for every email. And I think, I learned earlier that, I'd rather give away, not give away, but like not make as much money to have a little bit more mental time.
Right.
And also just to be able to get back to everyone in such a quick response, because nowadays people, that's what they look for. I mean, when they send something, they want something immediately back. So I would say for most of our response time is within like, an hour or something like that, unless it's something that we have to research. And even then we try to at least reach out and say, like, we're looking into this. But that's kind of how our team is set up. And then depending on the person, so how we decide who's going to work with different individuals, a lot of different factors. So whether the team member, maybe they are more of a first-time home buyer agent or a renter agent, or they know specific neighborhoods because they live in them, or they are very comfortable with certain price points. So I really try to know the client, whether a buyer, seller, renter, a little bit more, and kind of ask questions to find out from them who I think would be the best fit on the team to work with them. So we try to kind of line up personalities. I think that's really important, just so that people can understand each other and communicate. So that's kind of how we run it.
We that's awesome, Danielle. We've talked. I know you and I've talked about this before. Do you use any tools to kind of get an understanding what personalities fit with what personalities, or are you going on gut or just experience, or how are you doing determining that?
Yeah. So I know there's all those tools out there that you can actually kind of figure out whose personality is what, and I've done a couple of those myself.
Hmm.
But for me, I mean, that's one way of going about it, but it's also just like, you know, what is that person into? Like, if they're a huge baseball fan and I have a client that's a huge baseball fan, like they're obviously going to get, understand each other a little bit more. So we try to go a bunch of different things. We try to figure out a bunch of different characteristics, characteristics about the person that we're working with and then the person on the team to try to set them up. So I don't really use like disc assessments or anything like that. I mean, I have, but it's not like I make everyone go through one of those. I just think after working with them and getting to know them personally so well, because our team is very close. Like we're a very active team. We do a lot of like broker opens together. We do a lot of events together. We just hang out a lot. We all get along really well. That's like the culture of our team, and kind of it's you kind of know who is doing what. And then also depending on what they want, like what we do some stuff, like we started opening up the south side, which I really love. And I have somebody on my team that really likes that area and really wants to like build their business there. So I'm focused on helping them build their business there by not only marketing to it, but co-listing everything that kind of comes in with them, so that they have their own brand down there and they can really take that and accelerate it.
Yeah, I mean, Danielle, you've taken a big time like mentorship role, right, within your team.
I
Um,
mean, I hope so.
I mean, you would. Yeah, I mean, anyone that I know from your team that I come in contact with is calls you a great leader and a great mentor, and you're not about the, hey, I need to get this deal or it needs to be my name. It's about growing individuals. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a lot of agents, maybe not everyone, but I definitely don't have, or I try not to, I don't really have a lot of control issues. I mean, yeah, there's certain things that I want to control and they have to go a certain way just because I can see into the future and see what I want as a whole for the team. But at the same point, I really want people to be able to do things comfortably
Mhm.
on, their own time frame, within reason, because I think sometimes when you're micromanaging people, it's chaotic and it's really hard for you to get more deals done.
Mhm.
So I just hope that I'm able to train them and instill the same qualities and ethics and morals that I have for clients, and take those and use them as well. So I really, as we push forward, I tell them, like, when we're doing deals, a lot of times I'm CC'd and I'm just kind of looking and seeing when I need to comment or when I need to check in. But like a lot of times I don't have to.
Right.
They're pretty good at doing them. But that's how we start from the beginning when someone comes on the team, is me just really seeing where they're at. And then once I know that they're at the capacity that they can actually negotiate and follow the deal all the way through, then of course that they're allowed to. And it depends on the deal too, because some sellers and buyers I may have a personal relationship with, so I
Right.
need to
Right.
be more involved, as to where somebody may have called us via marketing and it's a cold lead, and it's, as long as you do a good job, it doesn't really necessarily have to be me. And I don't really want it to be like, my name's on the door because that's kind of how we started it. And originally my sister lived here and she was helping me with everything. But besides that, like, I'm not there to have people say like, oh, it's just Danielle. Like, I don't want buyers and sellers to be like, she's the only one that can show our property, or like, and I know a lot of people are like that, but we really set expectations from the beginning, from sitting down with them. We explain to them how we work and how it's going to go. And it's really efficient. And we usually don't have much pushback.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as long as you set the expectation, right? It's you should be in a good place. All right. So
Sure.
Danielle, that's kind of your real estate business. I had a very interesting, awesome conversation with you yesterday that I want to what came of the topic of this. Okay.
Hmm.
And the topic of this is we're in uncharted waters right now, right? And
Hmm.
everyone has their opinion and everyone's going to approach this the way that they're going to approach it. And we all respect that, right?
Yep.
You, Danielle Dowell, are approaching this as a top producing agent. You said to me, you know what, Joe, I was burnt out and I'm looking forward to recharging during this time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. So what give us your perspective of what has happened and how you're handling it and what you're doing.
So I think everyone, depending on where you're at in your career, kind of probably feels differently about this period that we're having. So for me personally, like the last 9, 10 years have been gangbusters. Like it's just been all out, crazy busy, and trying to build and keep up, and try to keep your systems up, your marketing up, and changing and constant, everything's changed. I don't think anything ever stays the same. And that's what I tell the team. So, for me, I mean, this is kind of like a little bit of like a self-induced vacation where you can't really do much, and you can't really, make your brain work that hard if you don't want to. I mean, my phone typically is constantly like blowing up with leads and with, call this person and go to this meeting. And right now it's not as much, right? So for me, I thought this is a great time to just relax. So, I mean, I have a house in Missouri that's next door to my brother and his 4 kids. I don't have children. I've never been married. And so they're very important to me. And they're the ages between 7 and 11. So they're prime ages for still thinking I'm cool. And that's not going to last very long. So I like wanted to spend that time with them and be quarantined with them. So I came down here. I think it's been 2 weeks ago. My plan is to stay down until things change. Obviously, I have support staff and people on my team that can assist in anything that we need in Chicago. But for me, we had a team meeting this morning, and depending on where you're at in your career, this is a perfect time to build your career up and to market yourself or organize yourself or get yourself ready. And for me, that's kind of the opposite. Like I'm just really taking time to relax. I'm taking time for my brain to like shut down, to rebuild, because what I think is going to happen coming out of this, I don't think anyone can predict what's going to go on. I don't know a person that actually can say what's going to happen. But the one thing that I do know is that it's going to create adversity, and I tend to thrive in that. Status quo, easy deals, day in, day out is not like my best case scenario, honestly. I just thrive on things that are problem solver. I love problem solving. I love seeing gaps in the market. I mean, that's kind of what excites me. I'm typically a little more analytical as
Mhm.
far as my thought process and my personality. So obviously it's going to be a bit of a numbers game, and I'm super, super excited about that.
You like things
Just relax.
you like things to get messy, right,
I
Danielle?
do. I love it. Like I love diving into like something that's messy and like figuring it out. Like I love it. So to
So
me, I'm just chilling.
yesterday, Danielle, here's what you said to me. You said, I was getting bored with it, right? The mundane or the ordinary tasks of the day to day just
Hmm.
started to really wear me out.
Hmm.
So talk to me. Tell me about that. What does that mean?
So I think what it was is I just, it's just doing, you kind of are doing like the same thing over and over, right? And you want to be excited. And I think that for me, obviously, I think there's a lot of people too. Like creating is amazing. Maintaining for me it's great. And that's why I hire people on to do the maintaining, because I know like what my strengths and weaknesses are, but it's not as exciting. Like I love business, like not just real estate, but like business in general. Like I love the stock market. I love finance. Like I love to do it. I mean, it's just one of the things that I love. So for me, I mean, first of all, we had been kind of preparing for a downturn. Like we talked in our team last year. I said, there's going to be something come up. I don't know what it is, but this is not going to last forever. So I had already started cutting cost on things and figuring out where we were going to be coming into this year, last year. So that's helped us out tremendously.
Right.
But yeah, I just kind of, it wasn't like it was hard to do or anything. It was just I kind of got bored with it, you know?
Yeah.
It was like the same thing every day. And while I know that we're really good at it, I wasn't seeing anything that was really like making my brain work. And if my brain is not like working, if I'm not working on something like that, it gets kind of just gets a little boring. So, even though this is really horrible, and I think this whole pandemic is something that I never want to see again in my life, and I wish that it wouldn't happen. I do think opportunity is going to come out it, and I'm really excited about that. So, kind of my motto, and I tell this to my team, is like, you can't control what you can't control, right? So, I mean, there's no point in sitting here every morning, waking up, worrying about what's going to happen because nobody knows.
Right.
So, chill out, relax, like do what you got to do to get your mind good. Make sure your mental health is there. Check on your friends. I've been doing that, calling all sorts of friends and having great long conversations that I haven't had in forever because I've been so busy. And
I
I can actually focus. It's
yeah.
not like my phone's dinging 20
Right.
times and I'm like, oh, I have another conference call and I've got this showing and I've got this. So it's meaningful conversations that I'm having that's actually producing a lot of business opportunities as well. But that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just turning off.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Well, so I had that written down here that your motto was you can't control what you can't control.
you
And you
can't.
told us, you told us what the why behind that, right? And why you think that way. But have you always thought that way? Or is that something that you
Yeah.
developed in this business? So that's a personality trait.
It's a personality trait. Yeah. Like I'm pretty like, I'm a realist, first of all, but I'm pretty status quo, like right down the middle. Like there's not a much that can get me like too excited, too not. But I will have to say, I set my life up that way. So, I think working really hard for the last 13, 14 years, saving money, there's a lot of things that you have to do. Like when you're in the business, I think a lot of people make money and they spend it, they don't save. And
Hmm.
so, if you have security, whether it's financial security, emotional security, whatever, those security, you need all of those things. And if
Hmm.
you have those, it's really easy to say that. If you
Right.
don't have those, it's not easy to say that. So I think my mindset that I try to instill in the team is to set yourself up like for success, which everyone says, but really make sure that you're taken care of across the board because nobody ever really knows when things like this are going to happen. And if you've been in real estate long enough, you've seen it happen multiple times, right? So, you just got to be prepared for what's going to happen and make sure that you're covered because when stuff like this happens, I'm not sitting here worried about like how I'm going to make money if this goes on for 3 or 4 months, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's kind of where the clarity comes from, and where I'm easy to just say, I'm not going to sit here and stress over something that I have no control over.
Got it. Danielle, yesterday you mentioned this, and then you just mentioned it again, and I want to go there for a minute. It says you used the word, "Hey, I'm really excited for the opportunity on the other side of this."
Yeah,
You mentioned you're really excited about the investor side of this, right?
yeah,
Talk to
yeah.
us.
I'm hoping. So there's two sides. Obviously the brokerage is where I make most of my money, and that's what I want to take. And I hope that that's very successful after this because I want to take care of everyone on my team, and I want to make sure that they are, still making money and taken care of. But at the same point, from an investor standpoint, like I'm excited. So I was actually in I was diligencing a multifamily deal down in Missouri for about 3 weeks before I was about ready to sign off on a contract about 2.5 weeks ago when this hit. And I completely pulled out and said, no, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And not to say that we really don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like there could be some opportunity.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, what you're seeing, but I'm already starting to hear, like I had 2 calls this morning from buyers
Hmm.
that I didn't know were even buyers. And they're like, well, we want to get a deal. And I'm not sure if their deals are going to be able to be had. I don't know if that or when that will happen. But the calls that I'm getting are from people that are cash heavy and are like, I don't mind to put in offers and I want to get a deal. So if that happens, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, I think for what I'm kind of set up for, it's great either way. Like I'm going to try to make a positive out of it either way. And maybe, on one end of the spectrum, it's a positive, and on one end of the spectrum, it may be a negative, whatever the case may be. But I do know that life goes on. People have to buy and sell, they have to rent, and you just may have to change your strategy for a little bit.
Let me ask you, Danielle, when you're getting these calls of I'm looking for a deal, how are you responding to that? How are you educating your clients? What is your verbiage that you're asking people or telling people?
So
Say that.
yeah, I don't ever mind putting in a low offer. I've never had a problem with that. It is what it is. Everyone's different. I don't get offended when I get low offers. What the property's worth or what you think you're going to sell it for.
Right.
Maybe in these conditions you may not, and maybe a little more. But in unsecured, but I think you have to decide like what the seller wants. But on the buy side, I'm saying like, yeah, let's look at it. Like, if we're going into downtown into a high rise that has 8 of the same units listed for around the same price, and we can't even get in to see a showing because they won't even let people in for showings now, like, why
Hmm.
would you not send someone a low offer and see what happens?
Hmm.
So I think it just depends on the product, the neighborhood, what's there, what it's at. I still think there's going to be stuff that may come on the market and go off the market with multiple offers.
Yeah.
But I just think you have to know your inventory and know the market, and then you're going to be able to navigate with the buyer. Like, yeah, here you probably could get a good deal. Here, probably not going to get a good deal.
Right. Has that messaging, you're pretty consistent with your messaging, Danielle. I know that about you. So has that messaging pivoted or changed at all from pre-pandemic to today?
Not really. I
No?
mean,
So,
I mean,
so,
it's
so someone called you 3 weeks ago or a month ago and said, "Hey, Danielle, I'm looking for a deal," right? What
mhm.
what is what has changed if I were to call you today and said, "Danielle, I want you to be my agent. I'm looking for a deal."
So I didn't have as many calls of people looking for deals 3 weeks ago. So that wasn't really like a call that I really got, because I think everyone still felt that the market was fairly strong. I feel like those calls are just coming in. But I still think what I said holds true for 3 weeks ago. If we're in a building with 8 units that are similar and they're all priced around the same thing, why would you not throw in a lower offer and see what you can get? If you're not, every buyer depends. Like, if the buyer is not emotionally attached, it doesn't matter, right? But if the buyer is emotionally attached, then that's a completely different story. So I think it's on a case by case basis. It's not, you can't really comment and say overall this is the same dialogue that I'm having with every single buyer.
Um, Danielle, you mentioned something earlier that I want to go back to. You said that you prepared your team for the downturn, right? That you had a sense that something was going to happen.
Yep.
You talked about how you prepared yourself financially, but we all know that you have some younger agents maybe on the team, and whether they're salaried or not, we would love to hear how you prepared them.
Well, we've just been having conversations. Every team meeting that we have, I've been giving them, hey, here's leads to call. Here's things that you should be doing. Like, you really need to try to push right now, because this is like, it's been the gravy train, really. If you couldn't make money in the last like 8 years, it could be a bit difficult once we get through this, maybe depending on how it goes. But it's been pretty easy. So within reason, like, it's not like everything's easy, but I was telling them, hey, like, save up, try to get as much as you can in now, because I do think that this is going to change. And that's as much as you can do, is just really push heavily and give them options and opportunities. I did a lot of co-list. I co-list everything, but I did a lot of co-list with them, tried to get them, I guess, as educated on the market as possible.
Hmm.
And that's all you can do. You can only, I say this a lot, you take your team and you lead them to the trough of water, but they essentially have to drink, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I just set them up, because I just knew that something was going down. And like, even me and my partners, the women that work with me full time, we started to cut costs on certain things. Like, we went through all of our expenses last year and was like, okay, we don't need this. We don't need this. Like, there is no reason. Or, you know how it is, everyone right now should go through your credit cards, through your expenses, because I bet you have stuff that you're getting reoccurring charge on that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I would highly suggest people doing. But we did that. And so we went through and we cut out a lot of unneeded expenses, and we're still even doing it now.
Danielle, I got to ask you, do you recall, like, what was your biggest aha from doing that, and what was some of the costs that you were like, we don't need this. Why am I using it? Just some advice, or some agents that might be paying for some stuff out there that they not necessarily might not need.
Well, there were a lot of costs, number one, that we were getting charged, like, not a lot, but like double for, that we didn't really know. And then a lot of like different programs that we had maybe signed up for that, didn't work, things of that nature, or that we were having reoccurring. Um, Trying to think recently what we have cut big cost on. We haven't really cut cost on like some marketing stuff that we're doing, just because I do feel that coming out of this, I mean, I think a lot of people start to cut that cost first.
Yeah.
And I think coming out of this, you kind of want to keep those marketing costs if you have the availability to do it financially, because when everyone else pulls out of
Yeah.
everything because of cost, like usually there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
So that stuff we've kind of stayed into. I think we just reassess stuff. Like, okay, like our platform that we were using to send out email blasts, like we're reassessing that right now.
Right.
Should we stick with that platform? Should we hold off on finding something?
Yeah.
We don't use, Berkshire. We haven't used a lot of Berkshire's systems just because we've had our own for years. But like, do we start to incorporate some of the systems of our brokerage in that are free, or that, don't cost, as opposed to us doing our own stuff for a while to see where everything goes? So I think that's kind of a lot of the stuff that we're doing is just cutting costs. And then like Dropbox, like, do we need this many accounts on Dropbox? Probably not. Like, you just kind of, once you start having all these different computers, you just put it on there and you just don't think about it, right?
Yep.
To different stuff like that we just, I think when you're busy and you're making a lot of money, it's really easy to spend a lot more money than you need to. And you don't really think about it because you're so busy.
Yeah, you just keep going, right? And you're like, I'll get to it, and you never get to it, and it just keeps adding filing. So let's pivot back to your personal. I know you like to work out. I know you obviously you love your nieces and nephews, right? You said 4 of them?
Yes, there's 4 and I have 1 on the way.
Oh, nice. Cool. Awesome. So you'll have a basketball team shortly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's your brother, right? Your brother has all 4 of them?
My brother has 4, and then a lot of people here in Chicago may know my sister Christy we worked together for like 5 or 6 years, and she's pregnant and she's due in like 20 days.
Tell her congratulations and awesome.
I will.
We're pulling for her. So what does Danielle Day's typical day look like right now while she's recharging her batteries and living in Missouri?
So I have been staying up a little bit later and getting up later, but I'm changing that. But no, so basically get up, I'm kind of coffee, check email, check everything that I need to check. And then I've been doing a lot of, just like working out, little workout videos, 30-minute videos on Instagram. And the kids and I we're trying to do 5-mile run walks every day. So we get out and we do that. I never really cooked ever because I just kind of by myself and just never really got into it. So we've been cooking every night, which has been really fun. And I'm rehabbing a bathroom at my house down here and doing some other work around the house. So that's been really nice because you're like using your own hands, where usually I'd be like, I have to pay someone to do this because I don't have 8 hours to do this. And honestly, being creative and using your own hands is really good for me, at least in my mind. And that's something that I don't get to do enough. So
let me be clear here, Danielle, for a second. So you're rehabbing this bathroom, like you personally are doing
so me and my brother, who actually knows how to rehab and how to do everything. Okay. And then my dad. So we're just like, my brother's kind of like, I don't want him to do it. He's just kind of like giving us, telling us how to do it. And then like, we're trying to do it. So I'm not sure it's going to be the best bathroom ever.
Just Dennis Hike, just think of you with a hammer and stuff like that, and rehabbing the bathroom and doing it. So
absolutely, like tearing that tile out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Aggression out.
You also said family is really important to you, right?
Yeah.
And you also said that you are the PE and the home economics teacher right now. So
I am.
How is that? How has family helped you recharge while you're recharging?
So in Chicago, I don't have any family there. So, and I strongly believe, for me personally, I associate Chicago with work. So when I'm there, I wouldn't say that I'm at my most relaxed place, because it's just always been kind of work related. And I feel like that's kind of, I don't know, for some reason, that's what it is. And I don't think that's a bad thing by any means, because when I'm there, I'm very focused on what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But being here with my family has been amazing, because typically I come down for some sort of an event, birthday, a wedding. And it's like you come in, it's super chaotic and busy, but you see everyone and then you're out. And you don't really ever get to spend any sort of quality time with anyone. At least I don't, because I'm in and out so quickly. And this time I'm actually coming down here and there's nothing to do. And since you're quarantined, you can't do anything.
Right.
So it's great, because the kids can come over and stay with me. They go back and forth to the houses. There's just a lot of stuff I think that you take for granted and you don't do in your normal daily life, that I'm thinking that I'm going to have to figure out somehow to incorporate
Yeah.
this moving forward past the quarantine, because it just makes you feel so, I think for me, it makes me feel so much better. It makes me feel so much lighter. And I think that it would affect my business in a positive way.
So yeah, Danielle, that's where I was going with that. I wanted to ask you this, and that's obvious. There's no judgment zone here, but you that was not the case when you're running a $50 million business in Chicago. You were not doing this quality time with the people that you loved as much as you wanted. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, completely fair.
Okay.
Yeah, to say.
So does that change on the other side of this? What and how are you going to adapt to that? Like, what changes are you going to make sure that this doesn't happen, that you don't go back to the old way of doing things in your world?
So it's kind of weird. I kind of have always been able to see where I'm going in life, but
Hmm.
I can't, it's not like I can see a clear path. I just somehow have kind of been able to do that over since I've been young. And I think I bought this house for some reason, kind of knowing, sounds a little hokey, but that stuff was going to happen and that things were going to happen. And I already had this in my mind that this is what I needed way before this happened.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I purchased the place down here and started to kind of work on it and, coming down here more. So my team knows too, like I've always, I'm pretty open about this, about coming down here and spending more time down here, period. They knew before this happened that I would be down here. I had already planned on coming down here for a month in the summer.
Yeah.
So I think that's always been on my radar, and it's going to continue. I think with real estate, like I said, I think it's all about setting expectations and doing a great job. So personally, I don't feel like that I have to be sitting in Chicago to do that. I
Hmm.
think I can do that from afar. I think there's a lot of things that you can do online, Skype, phone calls, whatever, that still is a huge value add. And I think too, it depends on how you incentivize your team as well. So like when they're doing showings and they're getting incentivized for doing showings and for doing deals, I mean, depending on where the deal is and what it is, like I tell people, like I'm not the best person to be showing your house. And I think some agents would be like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Like I am the best person. I'm like, I mean, in all honesty, if I have like a house that's, $300,000 house, and depending on like, the price point and probably who's coming in and out, like, I mean, maybe I'm like, not that you're not, too old, but like maybe it's better for someone on my team that is going to get along, more with that particular buyer, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Um, so I don't know, like I feel like that I kind of been working towards this goal.
Yep.
And that's why I have a team, and that's why I built a team. I didn't really plan on having a big team. It just kind of started to happen. And then once it started to happen, then I had to get more diligent with who I was hiring.
Hmm.
Instead of just being like, oh yeah, it's a friend of mine, you can come on the team, no biggie, right? Because then that started to not really be that great. And so now I think it's it's gotten to where I really like it. And we have talked even a little bit about maybe changing the team structure, which we may do after this, depending on how everything falls out. But my goal is to keep a team, but obviously there's certain things when it comes to developments, I have to be in town for certain stuff like that, or if it
Right.
comes into other homes and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I really feel like that a lot of my team members are, just as good as I am. I don't think that they're anything less than, I think they can do the job. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes they do the job, better than I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, absolutely, they will. Let's talk about your team for a second, Danielle. How
Mhm.
you're recharging right now, right?
Mhm.
Are you telling your team they should be recharging as well, or are you leaving it up to them, or what are they doing right now?
So I'm leaving it up to them. We talked about this in our meeting this morning too, but I think it depends on where you're at in your career. If you've been in your career a long time and you've been going gung ho, maybe it's time for you to recharge. And I think recharging is just as important as like building during this time period. If
Hmm.
you've been in the business 3, 4, 5 years and you're still building, I mean, this is an amazing time. Like you'll never be given this opportunity to do all these things that you should be doing in order to, once this is over, just have your business explode. I mean, when do you have endless hours to do marketing projects, to do social media, to organize your database? I mean, nobody is given this ever. So like, to me, if I was brand new, like I know back in the day I would have been on this like crazy, because back in the day I was working like 6 in the morning till like 11 o'clock at night,
Right.
maybe getting like 1 million and one glass of wine, and like not ever stopping, like because I was so addicted to it and I was so like crazed about like building it. um and so it would have been great to have like a month like this. But yeah, I just think it depends on where your business. I don't think that you should feel I don't think anyone should feel bad for taking some downtime. I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't at all. I mean, obviously. But some people feel like, I mean, are there time periods like during the day where I'm like, used to doing so much that I'm like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable. Yeah, there are. And I think for me too, that's one of the things that I kind of feel like I need to learn how to relax my brain a little bit and just relax myself instead of constantly being go, 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 go.
How are you,
So,
how are you practicing that, Danielle? Or are you practicing it? What's your plan for, how is Danielle gonna tell her brain to calm down and recharge?
well, I'm
What,
still trying to figure that out.
yeah,
But
a work in
the
progress.
brain, yeah. So just with everything right now, like I've kind of been, I know I'm on some text chains and with a bunch of people, realtors and just friends in general. And yes, wine for sure. But yeah, I'm not responding as quickly as I would have. I have a tendency, like as soon as someone texts me, to like get back to them and to like be on top of it, because I feel like that's been ingrained in me because of real estate, you know. But I'm trying not to do that as much. Like I'm trying not to like scroll through social media as much. Like I'll have my days, like every 3 or 4 days. I mean, I'll get on, I'll be like posting, and then like the next couple of days I won't. But I'm finding it's hard because I think you're so trained to do this, like instantly pick up your phone and look at every app and look at every single email and who's called and who's text. And while I think that's great for business, I think sometimes like, you know, your mind, when you have all these windows open, it's just like click, 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 click. And I mean, for me, I've just noticed that, that I need to not do that. And I think time blocking really helps with that.
Mhm.
I haven't been as great of time blocking, but I feel like going into the future, that's definitely something that I'm going to do. But even like emails, I mean, if you have a team, do you have someone that answers your emails? Like I have one of the women that answers my emails, and you know, not all the time, but right now she's doing it.
Yeah.
So to give me that release of like not having to even get on email, it's just if something comes through that she can't answer, I need to get onto, I do. And she's amazing. I mean, she sends the emails just like I would. Like you would not know that it's from a different person, but obviously we've worked together for 3 years. So, you know, that's going to be the case.
No, absolutely. Sarah McCarthy has a question for you that I was actually going to follow up with as well. You know,
Mm,
my version of the question is my version of the question is who's taking you up on this, and then Sarah is saying as far as the agents on your team or the people on your team, and Sarah is saying what are you recommending your team, specifically your partners? And she says I love that you can your admins partners, you call your admins partners, to do
yeah.
during this time. So what are you telling them? What do you know, like if you're a newer agent or even a veteran agent and you're going to the leader, Danielle Dowell, and they're saying, I don't know what to do right now. What are you telling
Well, let me just pull my list up from the meeting this morning
them? Okay.
that I have, because we went through all of this as well. So kind of same thing. So organizing mailing list, calling every single friend that you have, not so much for business, but just to see if they're okay, honestly. I've been doing that because I have to say I have a lot of friends that are, you know, I'm single in Chicago and live by myself. I have a lot of friends that are too, and some of them are not doing that great. So constantly like trying to keep up with them and trying to make sure that you're there for them, I think is huge, because a lot of times when I'm working, I don't have a chance to do that. So right now it's really big for me to help them out. And it helps me out too, honestly. So updating all your contacts, making sure that your contact list. Here's my biggest thing with contacts. So I didn't do this starting off, and I should have. First of all, put everyone from open houses in your contacts, which I didn't do for like the first 3 years, which was horrible. But contacts, what I do. So when I have a contact of someone, like not only do I put them like A, B, C, how good of a client, or if they're not a client, whatever, or I put like first time home buyer, renter, luxury, whatever. I put like, do they have kids? Are they a wine lover? Do they have pets? Where do they live? Like we get very detailed on who the contact is so that you can correctly market to them, because no $200,000 buyer wants to see your $2 million listing. Okay. So that takes time. And I'm even planning on doing that at some point. That's the one thing that I kind of have to do myself because it's mostly my clients. But I think if you're starting out, do that, because it takes a lot of time. It does. But if you're starting out, like if you just start to think that process and you just get used to doing it for every client,
Hmm.
man, that I think is a game changer when it comes to marketing to people.
So your advice to him, Danielle, is how I'm looking at it and hearing it is the fundamentals, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, like stick with the fundamentals, just increase the fundamentals,
Yep.
of running a big business. So does what we are currently going through change how Danielle Dowell, Danielle Dowell Group runs their business on the other side of this?
I think that's yet to be seen.
Yeah. Okay. And
Hmm.
what would your prediction be, if anything?
I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball right now. That would be amazing. But like I said, I don't know that anyone can really predict what's going to happen. I mean, I think you have to stay optimistic. You have to understand that you're going to deal with adversity, and you have to be willing to. Um, and I think that's all you can really say. I mean, I have a feeling that giving what's going on, I think in the next 2 weeks, I think we'll have a much better idea of probably where we're headed and what's going on in general.
Yep. Cool. So your recharge is going to be until the ordinance is lifted, or what's your timing on that?
I don't really know. I think it just depends on what happens. I mean, if we start to get busy again, or if we start to be able to do more than we can, or whatever the case may be, like, I mean, I could come up tomorrow and come back. It's not a problem for me. I just kind of want to wait and see what happens with everything. So I was planning on coming back this weekend. And then once everything got pushed out, I said, well, I'll just stay down and wait it out a little bit longer.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, as soon as it starts to seem like there's going to be some opportunity, then I'm definitely going to head back up, and I'm going to be really excited about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. What advice do you want to tell the rest of this group here? You have 50 over, you had over 50 people listening to you today. So what
Hmm.
advice do you want to end with for them?
I mean, I think the biggest thing here is to, you know, not focus on what's going on all the time. Get a little tidbit of news, but don't encompass yourself in the news, and in the crazy social media. And and I don't know what you guys are doing. I mean, we are not sending out any coronavirus emails to any clients, because I feel like we've gotten so many of them that's just,
Mm.
please, just, I think that's the best advice. I wouldn't send one.
Yeah.
Everyone, they get what's going on.
Right.
But I think, the best advice is just to stay positive and to stay active. And you know what? If you're going to set some goals for yourself, now is the time to do them, because you have the time to do them.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, I think. So if you're going to start doing something, I mean, I'm like, one of the things that I'm doing is kind of like clearing out my diet and starting doing like kind of keto to see like how I feel and how it like affects me. I mean, just playing with stuff. Like if you haven't worked out and you want to start working out, like, I mean, you've got all the time in the world. Start off slow. Don't start off with something crazy that makes you never want to work out again. Go for a couple walks and build up from there. Whatever you want to do that you've never had a chance to do, if it works, if it pans out, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Mhm.
I know it can be hard, because for me particularly, I kind of thrive when I'm busy. So I can fit like way more of my schedule, I feel like, when I'm busy, than when I'm not busy. I feel like I'm kind of a little more lackadaisical.
Right.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, I've heard a lot of people learning how to cook,
Yeah.
learning how to, do all sorts of different things. So, I mean, get creative with what you want to do and just be positive about it. And I wouldn't pay attention to the news as much. I mean, I know you've got to keep up with it, but I tend to listen maybe once every 2 or 3 days, and maybe I'm not quite as informed, but I think, at the end of the day, I know what I should be doing to protect myself and my family for the most part. And so that's kind of what I'm adhering to. And because a lot of that too it kind of rots the core of like who you are and your brain. And it's going to happen no matter what. Like, you can't control it. So I would say don't freak out about it.
Yeah. You can't control what you can't control, right, Danielle? That's your
Mhm.
motto. We're gonna
Yep.
we can easily end with that one. So what I heard you say there was, if you want to start learning something or forming new habits, do it now.
Yeah. It's a great time to start forming new habits. Like, even some of the bad habits that I've had, I'm trying to like wash those away and get back onto a strict schedule
Yeah.
of not having those and incorporating some other good habits, so that when I come out of this, hopefully I can carry those into everyday life.
Cool. Danielle, our time is up here. That's
So
12:40.
fast.
It was awesome. You brought a ton of knowledge to us. You were so real, right? Honestly, and you're just so genuine, and we truly
Oh,
appreciate you, sharing everything you did with us.
thank
Uh,
you for having me.
can people reach out to you, Danielle, if they have any questions on what you're doing right now?
Oh yeah, I'm available for virtual coffees and cocktails.
Okay, awesome. I know. Yeah, Dennis Hike called you out on the chat and said, "One glass of wine, really?" He said,
Oh,
yeah.
no,
When you
I'm on a tequila kick right now. I'm
Yeah,
doing like,
yeah, I
yeah.
think we all are. That's awesome. So
Hmm.
You guys, tomorrow to end out our week, we have Frank Matro. Frank Matro sells over 300 homes a year in the south side of Chicago, and Danielle touched on the south side today. He is going to talk about, so Danielle, tune in, how to work with investors, right?
Okay.
Not only how to represent them, but how to find them deals. And the majority of his 300 homes is that. So definitely tune into that. Frank's a character. He's going to be a ton of fun to have on the call. So we appreciate all you guys spending your lunches with us. I haven't seen anyone really eat except Josh had a bowl of cereal earlier. But so I don't know if we're going to call them lunch and learns anymore. Just maybe an hour of learning. So Danielle, appreciate you so much.
Thank you
Thanks so
again. You guys all stay safe and healthy. Hope to see you
much.
soon.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.